Hey babe, and anybody else watching, and welcome back to A Life Together. Now, we finished up looking at Lamentations yesterday, and today we're headed into Ezekiel, but we're in that same time frame, so we'll talk about that. But yesterday specifically, we were looking at the Lamentations for God's people and Jerusalem, but then we also saw a look at the needy specifically. Today, we're going to be looking at the living creatures. Really intense stuff there. God's glory, Ezekiel's call, a warning to Israel, and then the symbol of Jerusalem's siege. Really tough stuff for Ezekiel, but we'll look at that. So again, Ezekiel is where we are in chapters 1 through 4 today. So chapter 1. In the 13th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day, while I was among the exiles by the Kibar River, the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. On the 5th of the month, it was the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiachin, the word of the Lord came to Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi, by the Kibar River in the land of the Babylonians. There the hand of the Lord was upon him. I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was that of a man, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, their feet were like those of a calf and gleamed like burnished bronze. Under their wings, on their 4 sides, they had the hands of a man. All 4 of them had faces and wings, and their wings touched one another. Each one of them went straight ahead, and they did not turn as they moved. Their faces looked like this. Each of the 4 had the face of a man. And on the right side, each had the face of a lion, and on the left side, an ox. Each also had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces. Their wings were spread upward. Each had 2 wings, one touching the wing of another creature on either side, and 2 wings covering its body. Each one went straight ahead. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go, without turning as they went. The appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals, or fire, or like torches. Fire moved back and forth among the creatures. It was bright, and lightning flashed out of it. The creatures sped back and forth like flashes of lightning. As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each creature with its 4 faces. This was the appearance and structure of the wheels. They sparkled like chrysolite, and all 4 looked alike. Each appeared to be like a wheel intersecting a wheel. As they moved, they would go in any of the 4 directions the creatures faced. The wheels did not turn about as the creatures went. Their rims were high and awesome, and all 4 rims were full of eyes all around. When the living creatures moved, the wheels beside them moved. And when the living creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go, and the wheels would rise along with them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Then the creatures moved. When the creatures moved, they also moved. When the creatures stood still, they also stood still. And when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels rose along with them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Spread out above the heads of the living creatures was what looked like an expanse, sparkling like ice and awesome. Under the expanse, their wings were stretched out, one toward the other, and each had 2 wings covering its body. When the creatures moved, I heard the sound of their wings, like the roar of rushing waters, like the voice of the Almighty, like the tumult of an army. When they stood still, they lowered their wings. Then there came a voice from above the expanse over their heads as they stood with lowered wings. Above the expanse, over their head, was what looked like a throne of sapphire, and high above, on the throne, was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full fire, and from there down, he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him, like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day. So was the radiance around him. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. When I saw it, I fell face down, and I heard the voice of one speaking. Chapter 2. He said to me, "Son of man, stand up on your feet, and I will speak to you." As he spoke, the Spirit came into me and raised me to my feet, and I heard him speaking to me. He said, "Son of man, I am sending you to the Israelites, to a rebellious nation that has rebelled against me, and they and their fathers have been in revolt against me to this very day. The people to whom I am sending you are obstinate and stubborn. Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. And whether they listen or fail to listen, for they are a rebellious house, they will know that a prophet has been among them. And you, son of man, do not be afraid of them or their words. Do not be afraid, though briars and thorns are all around you, and you live among scorpions. Do not be afraid of what they say, or terrified by them, though they are a rebellious house. You must speak my words to them, whether they listen or fail to listen, for they are rebellious. But you, son of man, listen to what I say to you. Do not rebel like that rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat what I give you. Then I looked, and I saw a hand stretched out to me. In it was a scroll, which he unrolled before me. On both sides of it were written words of lament and mourning and woe. Chapter 3. And he said to me, Son of man, eat what is before you. Eat this scroll. Then go and speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he gave me the scroll to eat. Then he said to me, Son of man, eat this scroll I am giving you, and fill your stomach with it. So I ate it, and it tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth. Then he said to me, Son of man, go now to the house of Israel, and speak my words to them. You are not being sent to a people of obscure speech and difficult language, but to the house of Israel. Not to many peoples of obscure speech and difficult language, whose words you cannot understand. Surely if I had sent you to them, they would have listened to you. But the house of Israel is not willing to listen to you, because they are not willing to listen to me. For the whole house of Israel is hardened and obstinate. But I will make you as unyielding and hardened as they are. I will make your forehead like the hardest stone, harder than flint. Do not be afraid of them or terrified by them, though they are a rebellious house. And he said to me, Son of man, listen carefully and go take heart to all the words that I speak to you. Go now to your countrymen in exile and speak to them. Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, whether they listen or fail to listen. Then the Spirit lifted me up, and I heard behind me a loud rumbling sound. May the glory of the Lord be praised in his dwelling place. The sound of the wings of the living creatures brushing against each other, and the sound of the wheels beside them, a loud rumbling sound. The Spirit then lifted me up and took me away, and I went in bitterness and in anger of my spirit, with the strong hand of the Lord upon me. I came to the exiles who lived at Tel Abib, near the Kibar River, and there, where they were living, I sat among them for 7 days, overwhelmed. At the end of 7 days, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, I've made you a watchman for the house of Israel. So hear the word I speak, and give them warning from me. When I say to a wicked man, you will surely die, and you do not warn him, or speak out to dissuade him from his evil ways, or to save his life, that wicked man will die for his sin. But I will hold you accountable for his blood. But if you do warn the wicked man, and he does not turn away from his wickedness or from his evil ways, he will die for his sin, but you will have saved yourself. Again, when a righteous man turns from his righteousness and does evil, and I put a stumbling block before him, he will die. Since you did not warn him, he will die for his sin. The righteous things he did will not be remembered, and I will hold you accountable for his blood. But if you do warn the righteous man not to sin, and he does sin, he will surely live because he took warning, and you will have saved yourself. The hand of the Lord was upon me there, and he said to me, Get up and go out to the plain, and there I will speak to you. So I got up and went out to the plain, and the glory of the Lord was standing there, like the glory I had seen by the Kibar River, and I fell face down. Then the Spirit came into me and raised me to my feet. He spoke to me and said, Go, shut yourself inside your house, you and your son, you, son of man. They will tie with ropes. You will be bound, so that you cannot go out among the people. I will make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, so that you will be silent and unable to rebuke them, though they are a rebellious house. But when I speak to you, I will open your mouth, and you shall say to them, This is what the sovereign Lord says. Whoever will listen, let him listen, and whoever will refuse, let him refuse. For they are a rebellious house. Chapter 4. Now, son of man, take a clay tablet, and put it in front of you, and draw the edge of Jerusalem on it. Then lay siege to it, erect siege works against it, build a ramp up to it, set camps against it, and put battering rams around it. Then take an iron pan, place it as an iron wall between you and the city, and turn your face towards it. It will be under siege, and you shall besiege it. This will be a sign to the house of Israel. Then lie on your left side, and put the sin of the house of Israel upon yourself. You are to bear their sin for the number of days you lie on your side. I have assigned you the same number of days as the years of their sin. So for 390 days, you will bear the sin of the house of Israel. After you have finished this, lie down again, this time on your right side, and bear the sin of the house of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year. Turn your face toward the siege of Jerusalem, and with bared arm prophesy against her. I will tie you up with ropes so that you cannot turn from one side to the other until you have finished the days of your siege. Take wheat and barley, beans and lentils, millet and spelt. Put them into a storage jar and use them to make bread for yourself. You are to eat it during the 390 days you lay on your side. Weigh out 20 shekels of food to each day and eat it at set times. Also, measure out a sixth of a hin of water and drink it at set times. Eat the food as you would a barley cake. Bake it in the sight of the people, using human excrement for fuel. The Lord said, in this way the people of Israel will eat defiled food among the nations where I will drive them. Then I said, not so, sovereign Lord. I've never defiled myself from my youth until now. I've never eaten any unclean anything found dead or torn by wild animals. No unclean meat has ever entered my mouth. Very well, he said. I will let you bake your bread over cow manure instead of human excrement. Then he said to me, Son of man, I will cut off the supply of food in Jerusalem. The people will eat rationed food in anxiety and drink rationed water in despair, for food and water will be scarce, and they will be appalled at the sight of each other and will waste away because of their sin. That is such a heavy judgment that he's bringing on Ezekiel, and to show, well, not kind of judgment. I mean, Ezekiel's taking the sin on himself, and we see that in the years of their sin, and we see that 390 on one side, and then 40 day. Wait, is that for the other one? I'm not seeing it for the other one, or for the other side. But yeah, so he's there for over a year on just one of his sides, and that is so incredibly intense. But that shows the depth of fallenness that his people are going to reach. Beyond that, the living creatures. Anytime I read this, I always think it's so interesting looking at the living creatures and thinking like, wow, I wonder what that depiction looked like. And you can actually find pictures. If you look up depictions of heavenly beings, people have created the beings with four faces and the wheels, and each one's a little bit different. Like the wheels are around them, the wheels are below them, beside them, but the eyes on the rims and stuff. But any way you slice it, that is not something that we would see every day, right? That's not something we would consider natural. And yet these living creatures, these living beings, are beings that have resided in heaven since God began time. And I think that that's so incredible and terrifying too. But that's just the living creatures. I mean, there's a way that he kind of describes them with the four faces and the wings and the wheels. But when he's talking about the glory of God, he's like, God looks like molten glass or molten metal, I think is what he says. And he doesn't know how to put shape with that. And I think that when we think about the terror of the living creatures, about how terrifying it would be to see one of these things, and it doesn't mention their size, but I can't help but wonder if they're much larger than we are. But either way, terrifying. How much more so a perfectly holy, righteous God who created all of that and all of everything. Yeah, that's pretty intense. And I don't think we should lose that wonder. In fact, I think it's really, really important that we don't. And we recognize heavenly beings, as foreign as they are to us, how much more so an infinite God. Worth praying about, so let's do it. My God, I thank you that you are infinitely powerful. You are infinitely large, Lord. You have created all things, and you have created us. Lord, help us to approach you with humility, recognizing that even things such as the living beings that are in your presence and around you are so foreign to us, and they may terrify us, Lord. Help us to walk with humility, recognizing that you are infinitely greater than they. My God, I thank you for the fact that we can look into your word and see glimpses of you throughout your word, Lord. You are so good and so holy, my God. Every time we open your word, help us to learn more and more about you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, that is about all I have for today. As always, know that I appreciate you. Wife, appreciate you tons, and I will plan on seeing you tomorrow. Have a good one.